I made $100,000 a week before my 21st birthday as a South African entrepreneur, and here's how you can do it too. Hi, I'm Jade, and this is a story of how I went from watching my mom skip meals because she couldn't afford to feed us both, to some days not being able to go to school because we couldn't afford petrol, to later losing our house after high school. I went from that situation to making $100,000, and by the time that I was 21, to being able to live in my dream apartment and to taking my mom traveling for the first time in her life across the world. Now, I want to be clear, this video is not to brag. It's honestly just to serve as an inspiration to people who might be in the same or similar situation to where I was, and also to show you that it is possible, even for someone who might not be in a first world country, because there really are only figures in the United States or the UK that talk about this story. There's so few that you see that look like you're from the same place as you, or similar situation, and I want to appeal to those people, and this is the video I wish I saw when I was younger. So I'm going to jump into it. So taking it back to the beginning, growing up was a little bit tough because my parents got divorced when I was only 9 years old, and immediately when they got divorced, we started facing a lot of financial troubles. My mom got involved with someone who was incredibly abusive, and to save you the story, we went through a lot of trauma together, to the point that all throughout school, at the young age that I was, while my friends were leaving classes, I was leaving therapy. While my friends were leaving the sports field, I was leaving court cases. And at the time, our financial situation wasn't the best, so we couldn't afford a good lawyer, especially to deal with what I was going through and what we were dealing with, with the trauma in the situation. So that was the first time that I really thought to myself, wow, if we had the money to do this, we could have been able to get through this so much easier, and we just couldn't. Along the way, that was when, like I said, my mom started to skip meals because we just couldn't afford to eat some days. Have to skip school, I wouldn't be able to go to school because she wasn't able to afford the petrol. So this was happening during school while I was dealing with all the trauma, to the point that I reached a really dark place, and I didn't think I was even going to live until my 16th birthday. And around the same time, I knew that I wanted a solution, because I made a promise to myself when all of this started happening that I would never allow it to happen again. It was the first time that I just knew I needed to change the situation, because it wasn't changing around me. There was no luck on my side. There was nothing that was going my way. So what I did is I started focusing a lot on learning a little bit more about money, because I'd never seen what wealth looked like. I'd never seen what wealthy people looked like. I didn't even know that was possible. Especially when you're going through all that darkness and the poverty is all you know, you don't even consider it as a possibility. So I started reading a lot. I started doing a lot of research into finance, into entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurship. So I actually picked up a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that changed my life forever. It was the first book that gave me a key to unlock the possibilities of what money could do for me and what the relationship with money could look like. And I'd never seen that. I'd only seen this really toxic relationship with money, especially getting worse and worse and worse in my life. So that was the only reference point I had. And I remember reading that and just having this world of possibilities open up, to the point that I started really paying attention to YouTube, and I started watching all these people on YouTube make a success of themselves, and they were young guys that were making a lot of money. And although they were from the United States most of the time, and they were, males or whatever the case is, I just knew it was still possible. It really opened my eyes to the possibility that if these people are doing it, there's no reason I can't, because I know that there's nothing differentiating me from them. They're not particularly smarter, they don't have necessarily bigger skills than me or greater skills than me, and I was just so consciously aware of that. So it was the first point, or the first reference point that I had of wealthy people, and I knew they were out there and I knew they were doing it. So at the age of 16, I started to get to work. I tried as much as I could. I started selling things around the house, video games on Facebook Marketplace. I tried to sell spare things, and I made a little bit of money. I saved it up and I started my first business, which was network marketing. Lost a lot of money, never made any success of it. So that was my first knock. It kind of took down my confidence a lot. Then I went on to trying drop shipping. Again, lost a lot of money and it just never worked out. So confidence hit number 2. And around this time, I was around 18 when I tried that. So 17, 18 when I was trying all of these things. Tried a portrait drawing business at the end of high school, and it just also fell through. I was making a loss out of it. So nothing was going my way. And to top it all off, that was around the time that we ended up losing our house and we had to move back in with my uncle. So it was a really, really tough time, but I remember that being the catalyst to everything, because it was so much more painful seeing my mom suffer and seeing my mom go through all this trauma of not being able to give us the life that she always wanted, to now that was way more painful than having to work endless nights. So I made a promise to myself that I would never allow that to happen, and I would change our situation, because it wasn't changing any other way. So I sat down night after night, day after day, weekends, you name it. I didn't see friends for about 6 months, probably 4 to 6 months at all. I immediately sat down and worked, and I finally saw some things come to fruition. All those things never worked, and I tried everything. And then I had my one stroke of luck where I made $5 online, which sounds like nothing, but to me it was a world of possibilities that opened up, because it was the first time that I saw real money being made online. And I never knew it was even possible, because I'd never seen a South African do that. I'd never seen someone that looked like me do that. So it was the first vote of confidence that I had in myself to say, okay, this is actually going to work, because nothing else had ever gone my way. We weren't financially strong. I went through all this trauma, and as it was, I could barely go through school. I scraped through. I did not perform at all. There were some subjects that I did extra well in, which was more business. But aside from that, I never ever enjoyed school. It never appealed to me, and I would work in class. I would be on my phone trying to make an online income. I'd be learning about trading. I'd be learning about money. I would be doing all of these things in class instead of paying attention. And it was all because I knew we couldn't afford to go to university. So why would I go through all this trouble of going through school if I knew I would not be able to afford university? So I never went to university, not because I didn't want to. I actually did, but we just couldn't afford it. It was the same time that we lost our house. So in that situation, while all my friends were busy with university, it was a really good excuse to just focus on what I wanted to do. And I sat down, I put some things out of what I knew I was good at. So some social media management, some social media marketing, made my first $5. And from making that $5, I knew that I could turn that into $50. Once I made $50, I knew I could turn that into $500. And I still remember to this day the first payment that I gave myself of $200 from the freelancing platform I used, and it was life-changing. I'll never ever forget that. And from that point on, I just knew I was going to focus on this and nothing else, because it was the first time I saw something go in my favor. So it was very easy to fixate on it. And that's all I did. I worked day in, day out. I would work on that. And to the point that I was probably working around 16 hours a day. If I did go out with friends, they'll attest to this. I would wake up at 5 a.m. the next morning after drinking and just work. So there was nothing stopping me. I knew what it was onto was a gold mine, because it was the only time something had ever worked out for me. So focusing on that really worked out. I went from making $200 in a month to making $2,000 in a month. And I'll never forget the first time that I charged someone $1,250. I remember having the sales call at 3 a.m. and I said to him, look, I'm going to charge you $1,250, whereas the most I'd ever asked for before was $200. And he said yes straight away. And I remember thinking, wow, I've been undervaluing myself for so long just because I felt like an imposter, just because I didn't feel like I was worth asking that amount of money. And from that point on, everything changed. I hired my first employee. I started to scale this. I registered it as an official agency in the beginning of 2020. And from there, I just built up this marketing agency. And it took me about 6 months in the time of starting it to make multiple six figures. And it was incredible. I will never, ever, ever forget that feeling. To the point that by my 21st birthday, a week before, I made $100,000 in liquid. I had $80,000, I'll never forget it. $80,000 in crypto and $20,000 in my PayPal. And the first thing that I did with that money when I reached that goal and that milestone was I took my mom and my friends traveling to Cape Town, paid for a villa for all of us, got a private chef in, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. And from that point on, I never looked back. Everything changed. And that is exactly where my life kind of started. I would say it was kind of my rebirth, because I could see what was possible. And I was finally able to, do these things for my mom. I'll never forget the first time I was able to take her for lunch and pay for it. It's such a simple, small thing. But dealing with everything that we dealt with and being able to do that for her was maybe one of the most special moments of my life. It wasn't getting my first expensive watch. It wasn't the first time I flew business. It wasn't any of that. It was just being able to take my mom traveling and being able to pay for her for one simple lunch and knowing that we would be okay forever because I would make sure of it. And I remember once I started to make the success of myself, the people that knew me, that knew where I came from, they all started asking me, how did you do this? How is there a way you can help me? And it made me realize that there are a lot of people out there that are not necessarily from the exact same situation as me, but a lot of people that want more out of their life, that want to give their parents the life that they deserve, that they were never able to get themselves. And there's so many more people than I realized. So what I started to do is I recently released a community or a program that's completely free. Whereas most people charge a massive mentorship fee of like $4,000. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to sell anyone anything. I just want to give a roadmap to people to show them that it's possible, no matter where you come from, no matter what background, no matter what country, no matter who you are able to make money online and you're able to change your life in a very big way, very quickly. And that's exactly why I built out this program, which goes from exactly how to start a company, exactly how to choose your skill, how to choose what to sell, how to get your first sale. I go through every single thing. So if it's something that you want to look at, you can go down below the video because there is a link. But what I really want to leave you with is my biggest takeaways from this entire journey. The two main things that I want to leave you with that quite honestly were the two single things that made me this amount of money at 20 plus years old. I'm 24 now, but I've learned a lot in the past, and these are the two main lessons. Number one, I would say find a reason to wake up every single day. And I'm not talking about motivation. Motivation's so temporary. What I'm talking about is, for me, it was the pain of seeing my mom live out a life that she never ever desired, and a life that was so completely different to what she always aspired to live. That to me was way more painful than the sleepless nights. So even on the days that I was tired, and even on the days that I didn't want to, I would still wake up. Which leads me to the second point. The second thing that you need is you need consistency and you need discipline. You do not need motivation. Because I know one thing for sure. I know that the days that I wake up and I am healthy and I am willing and I'm motivated, it looks exactly the same as the days where I wake up sick, tired, and super not motivated at all. The days look exactly the same. The things that I do are exactly the same. And I think that is exactly why I've gotten to the point where I am and why I will go to where I desire to be. Because it doesn't matter what the day looks like. It's not determined by that. My consistency remains the same and my focus remains the same, despite how I feel. And that to me is what was the caveat and the catalyst to the success. So if I leave you with anything, maybe make note of that. And if you want to learn a little bit more, go down below. It's a completely free community, and hopefully it helps.